Hello, boys and girls. My name is Koyoshi. And this time is happening because it's getting around that time. You guys probably already know it quite a bit. But the release of Metroid Prime is soon coming up. So with that in mind, my name is Koyoshi 1907. And we are back with another playthrough. We are going to be doing what I call a 200% run of Metroid Prime Remastered, though anybody who's familiar with the category will already know what it is. First we need to do some saves, and I'll do that while we're here. But yes, Metroid Prime 4 is on the horizon, so I figure what better time than to do a full playthrough of one of my favorite Metroid Prime games now. That's Metroid Prime 1. So, the first thing we are going to do is turn down this only a little bit, because I do need to hear the effects. This will turn down quite a bit, because the game does tend to get quite loud. You guys have been commenting about that. And for an interesting playthrough, we're going to turn all of these on as well, because that actually changes the opening cinematic quite a bit. This was not available when you originally played the game if you played the North American version. It was added in later to make the game feel a lot better. What about the other stuff? If she is not discovered on its own. This gets really annoying. It's probably going to bother me. It's also going to waste a lot of time, so I'm also going to turn the hint system off because I actually have my own guide that I'm going to be using, which I almost forgot to pull up. And then controls. We just keep the normal setup because that's easier. But yeah. Other than that, what is 200%? It's basically, we need to get 100% items, but there's also a scanned logbook that we need to complete, and we need to get 100% complete of that as well. All in the same run, and that's how you get a 200% completion run. To make sure that this is, to make sure this isn't too bad, I've been doing runs already, and I recently completed a couple 200% runs. I also had one run where I missed one logbook entry and doing other stuff. So I have to go back and do that again later. But, as you can see, I had to practice the run quite a bit. Go through quite a bit of guides, because the run is quite difficult, very notorious, because it's very easy to miss even one log entry. And log entries are missable, as you can tell, and if you miss one, it gets really bad. Hang on a minute. Alright, sorry, I got my guy back. With that, we are no casual ultimate gamers, so we're going to play the game on normal mode, of course, because I've beaten this game hundreds of times. My dust, yes, this is not a blind playthrough, because I actually wanted to practice this a bit more, because it can be pretty hard. Adventure games are infamous for being really long if you don't know what you're doing, but really short once you do know what you're doing. And I've actually kind of figured out an okay route, most of which is just involves following a guide, though. Anyways, unidentified distress beacon is tracked to a direct safe vessel just above Tallon 7, or whatever that was called. So, this cutscene's normally silent in the original North American version. And you can still choose to have that on, but I believe it makes the game more immersive. The actual full cinematics doesn't really change much. All it changes is that a couple of extra dialogue gets said during the game. When the hint system talks to you, you hear a data received every few minutes or so. I actually decided to turn off the hits because they start to get really annoying, especially since I know exactly where I'm going now. At first I was doing the game mostly main, so I did have them just in case I forgot where to go, but now I don't really care about it. But other than that, yes, we need to get 100% completion, and we need to get 100% scan completion. And I'm not playing with the motion controls because I had a lot of nightmares trying to play this on the Wii with the motion controls. So we are just sticking with the default controls that everyone probably remembers from the GameCube version. Just a fair warning, yes, I will be skipping all scan dialogue because otherwise this video would take way too long to put out. To save time and make it more efficient, however, I will be reading the logs just for the bosses only as they appear. Hopefully I actually remember to do so. So there's some stuff you can scan here. We're not going to do that. We're just going to head in. This we do need to scan, so we'll go ahead and do that. Takes a little while for that to open. Literally just the door opens simulator for a bit. If we scan this, we see that some stuff has appeared. And more importantly, we get our first scan here of Parasite. Some guides indicate you can't get this until much later on. Okay, anyways. Basically, we see that these monsters have taken out all of these space pirates that are trying to, I believe, get some kind of experiment set up. And I think apparently they were working on some kind that I think you'll see more a little bit later. But anyways, these parasites came and now they're almost all dead. So now we have to do other stuff. Make sure to back up the first time you do this, because the map station itself is actually a scan. And it's very easy to forget. And yes, for my own sanity, I will be also getting all the maps. I consider it a part of 100%. I know most people don't, but it's fine. And anyways, now from here, we want to make sure that we scan any small energy and missile pickups we happen to get, because those are also scans. Also a scan is something coming up next, which is the other stuff. And yes, if I were reading all the scan stuff, it would take a long time to do that. My best suggested to you guys is just play the game and read the scan entries yourself if you must. That's probably the best way to deal with that. Anyways, we got more base pirates to get through. This time around, after they're... we're gonna scan pickups if we get any. Got the small energy right off the bat. Not bad. And then we're going to go over here. We'll go behind this wall so this thing doesn't shoot us. This one kind of teaches us we need to use missiles to break its casing, and then we can also scan that drop, which gives us another log entry. Now, to make sure I'm doing everything, I will also be at certain points looking at logbooks. There's our first pirate data. That one kind of warns us that apparently the pirates have lost their hope. Seems. Apparently, this game and the Metroid Prime games have different storylines, so technically, apparently, this game does not take place after Super Metroid. That's because Super Metroid has its own unique game set. Okay, that one didn't have as much damage. A little silly, they still try to see, even though they're practically almost dead anyway. Just quickly missile that guy, and we're gonna get approved to Deck Gamma. So just to check, we got all the stuff and the pirate data. The pirate data isn't fully missable. There is 1 hour chance you could actually get it at the very end, apparently. That's more like a normal bed in terms of health. Didn't have many injuries at all, so that's took longer to defeat. As you can see, the charge beam can also be used in to drop pickups. Before we go, don't forget to also scan the save station. That is also a scan, apparently. Pretty much anything you could scan that you think you can scan counts as part of scan %. And this is going to be my first check of the run. This is the only time I'm going to be pausing the game stuff, because I did miss a couple of things the last time, and I like to always check to make sure I have everything in the guide before moving on. The main things we need, though, are that missable pirate data, which we got, Parasite, and later the Parasite Queen. The auto turret we can get later. And then research, we just need the small energy missile save and map stations. Map stations, there are limited amounts of them. If you pick them all up, you won't be able to scan them anymore. So you do need to be very cautious of that. I didn't lose at least a couple of runs because I forgot to scan the map station. Now we'll go into here. If you're wondering, no, I cannot skip the cutscenes, mostly. As far as I'm aware, when you started, I don't believe you're able to skip any cutscenes. Also, the game has cool cutscenes anyway, so may as well show them. And here's probably the weakest boss of all history, Parasite Queen. I mean that literally, because if we do the setup correctly, she'll be dead in like less than a minute. Anyways, Parasite Queen, Parasite female, genetically enhanced by unknown means. V-SWAT has been detected in creature's mouth. Use your auto-targeting to acquire this new target. And whatever the heck that was, I don't really care. So the idea is to just spam all of missiles, really. At some point, charge beam for a different attack. And yeah, like I said, easiest boss ever. Just this dies within a minute. We can actually pause during this video to check if we got Parasite Queen scanned or not, too. And we did save, so we could also go back to that if we failed. But this one, we'll just make sure we got this. I do not want to have to redo this. Okay, yeah, we definitely have the Parasite Queen. So now we can just focus on moving. Alright. So the reactor core is now gone critical, so that means we have a very now famous escape sequence, which should be very popular for anyone who's popularly known for anyone who has been playing Metroid games like this. Also, now we can start disabling this turret, so we don't even have to fight them at all. As they just kind of destroys all those opponents for us. Tricky part with this is save sequence is it's really long and takes a lot of time, and there's your other chance to get the parasites, but we checked before, we already have some of them. We can check the scan log at least a little bit before, so we can focus on escaping and see what time we'll get at the end. The tricky part with this escape scene is just trying to get up these hills perfectly. The longest time I could not seem to get that just right. But yeah, as you might guess, we are using the morph ball as it's the fastest form of movement for the entire game. But yeah, when we get boost ball, it'll be even faster. As far as I'm aware, you cannot move on until you clear those enemies, so we just use a couple missiles to get through that. This one we can skip, however, so we'll do that. And then we'll get out of there. Yeah. The first time I played this, I did almost run out of time a couple of times. That's because I had the silly idea of trying to walk everywhere instead of using the morph ball. As you can see, I pretty much just used the bell now. Of course, we do have to briefly pop up for a minute to shoot, and also, this won't last forever, and you'll see what I mean by that in a minute. But first, we get to see this game's aim's like main villain, sort of like big boss of some sorts. No, really. I'm joking. There's probably some uninteresting in him, but it's the first big boss we see. Jeez, I cannot speak today. See, good grief, man. Stop dying. My apologies if I sounded like I was mean. I did not mean it. If I did at all. Anyway. And this is what I meant by we won't be able to use the morph ball for a bit. So we get crushed against the side of this wall here of the elevator, and we also just lost all of our stuff we get. It's kind of weird for a Metroid game to actually start us with stuff. So yeah, various suit, morph ball, missiles, charge beam, and grappling. They are of all malfunction. So now we are just forced to walk everywhere. And we have to go this way. Actually, Vesta, I could have probably gotten sub maybe 3:30, or maybe even sub 4 minutes if it was fast enough. But that's still pretty respectable time, actually. And now, how are we going to track our target, which is Metal Ridley? Well, we have to do a ground sequence because apparently he's escaped. If anybody is where to guess, yes, that's probably the robot that the pirates were working on. Tracking on enemy has been lost. Ground-based recon required. Begin landing sequence. Now, there's one important scan to remember here. And that's the fact we can actually scan our ship. That one I actually have missed before. It's not every Metroid game where you can scan your own ship in order to get a collectible. It's kind of awkward, in fact. You can see why players might forget. But anyways, here we are at the Tallon overworld. We have basically a fade, except our basic beam and basic movement now. This is going to be way different now. We also get a new extra lot. Yes, I do want to save, since we saw that we were able to make it out without having to redo that. And there's our first research. And now we're gonna do something really weird and interesting. I mean, like, really weird. So this is an area you're actually not supposed to go to until the very end of the game, but I'm very paranoid and I like to have my scans done as early as possible. So we're actually gonna go here first, even though we don't need to. So we're killing 2 of those enemies, and then scanning the 3rd one to get the seed lane scan very early on. You're normally not supposed to get that until later. Early scan we're gonna get, but this time we are required to get at some point anyways, is the Tangleweed. We will find this later, but it's nice to scan these now. And then, if we go far enough, we'll get another cutscene for the impact crater. Again, we're going pretty far out of our way here. Technically, we could save time by waiting until after the Morph Ball to get this. It's probably what I did in the other stuff. Anyways, we get a Space Pirate data for just doing that. And, oh yeah, now I remember. We need missiles to get that. Yeah, now I remember. But yes, yeah, you can get those scans before you've even started the main game. I actually completely forgot, though, that there were still missiles required. Alright, not fully around, then. We'll need to go back here quite a few times anyway. Whenever I get a chance, I'll just visit the Artifact Temple. So we should have scanned the beetle there, which I think we did. Now we could scan the Sep Sack over on the right. And quite a few more scans can then be gotten, including the Blast Cap, the Zoomer, and if we go a little bit higher up, get a Geemer as well. And we'll also make sure, yeah, we did get the Beals. I like to scan enemies multiple times, so we got really lucky. That's very early time to get the large energy. We still need 3 other drops to be collected. Some of these can no longer be yet until we get the missile back. So that's our first goal, is to get our missiles back, probably. Not gonna go out of our way to get back to this area. We'll just follow our normal route that I decided to take from here. Even still, I wanted to get that earlier than sooner, because one of those things we had to scan there was a pirate data that I've easily forgotten. So I just like to go there just to get the data out of the way. And inside here, we will get our first lure. Now I'm going to use this cutscene to actually look at where I need to go. This is the Chosen Ruins, our first major area of the game, and also one of our longest major areas of the game. And here's our research. You need to remember to do this, because this one's really easy to miss if you're careful. But yeah, there's Blast Shield on store, and for some reason you can scan that to get a research. So don't forget to do that. Otherwise, note that I am playing on, because I'm playing on the remastered version of the game, the skip that normally lets you get the space jump early cannot be gotten. I ended up not skipping this, even though I said I would. That's fine, though. We get the Scarab and Ion here, though. Okay. We scanned that. Now we can scan the hive. And then we can scam the wasps that come out of the hive. And we get our first actual proper save on the map, which we are going to get right away. I'm not too worried about missing certain items. Instead, I'm mostly going to be focusing on getting very particular missables, which could be quite hard to remember. Just really want to get up close and personal. I don't like it. But yes, there's some of my least favorite enemies early on, because there's just so many of them to deal with. Could skill scan that's there if we want. I got just a few surviving, gives you a lot of problems. Since we don't have the charge beam, we can't necessarily get to their pickups early. And we just need to keep going. Then we get a plasmite. I think I'm less worried about the air enemies and more about will I still have energy by the time I'll make it to the boss, because that's usually what happens with Metroid games, is you might not even make it to the boss before stuff happens. Alright. Now we get our first of us, Hive Mecha, though I'm not sure if you could really call it a boss. It can be somewhat tricky, yes, but it's not actually that hard. So we're going to start by just scanning the Hive Mecha itself. That's a thing we have to scan. And then we have to scan its minions, which are these Ram-Mormoths. The way I like to scan them is edit down to just one left, so I don't have to worry about them knocking me off the map, necessarily. Just keep trying to scan it until it works. And it says here, the Warwasps are the only species on top 5 involved in true high mind. That's seeing damn dark faces very fast. Instant friend, circular enemies and high needs disorienting. Straight off all sides as a single intelligence, they can fell huge organisms. Like Samus, apparently. Apparently Samus is a huge organism. Okay. Then, Hive Mecha. Secure unit programmed to work with predatory hive dwellers. Design fond makes the Hive Mecha weak around their access ports. These units are second-generation congens, able to interfere with organic units at high level. They train, shelter, and work with hive-dwelling predators. Unarmed, they rely on their hive beast to handle any threats. Basically means, yeah, this boss doesn't really fight us. Basically, its minions are the ones that fight us. And we mash the buttons to hit them to take them out. I think a couple of days ago I beat this fight without taking damage. It's actually deceptively more difficult than you think. It's also quite a tricky boss to take down normally, because that around you is actually poison. And it gets to the point where there's a lot of enemies. So the way I deal with it is I just skip them. Or try to kill them before they do anything. If you use your map, you can see where they are about to attack. By map, I mean by the little circle at the bottom left, you can see when they're about to attack. Stop, then you can just track them down and easily take them out. That was still not bad. As you might have guessed, now that we know what to do, this is actually a pretty easy boss, but it's deceptively more difficult than you think, because the poison drains your health really fast, and it can be very hard to get out once you're in it. So it's more about try not to fall off battle than an actual boss battle. Alright, since I didn't do it in the battle, I will check the scan now. I like to do this in each area, because if I forget one, we're gonna have to redo that whole battle again. It's just the safety correction to make sure I know what I'm doing. Hi, Mecha. Oh wait, yeah, Hive Mecha's up here. Then we got the Ram Warboss. Those two are missable permanently. If you don't get them during that fight, you will not be able to collect them again. So now we can blow this open to get a missile. That was really silent, actually. Alright, so we got our second missile drop item, which is good. So here's our first hidden missile expansion of the entire game. Like any other game, we have to get a bunch of extensions and energy tanks in order to finish this game. By the end, we'll actually have 250 missiles, 8 of a different upgrade, and 8 at least in total number of it. And of course, 100% skin entries and all the other collectibles we can ask there. To be fair, this is just general Metroidvania stuff. Alright, we got our map now, so we can see where to go here. Thankfully, there isn't much to actually grab here. We don't get really much of a chance to collect stuff. We're still kind of weak. We're trying to save everywhere as a result because it could be very easy to just, if you're not careful. I find these scarabs to actually be kind of early on if you're not aware of how much damage they do. So, we do need to be careful. So now we can get missile drops as well as normal energy drops, which is good. And there we go. Stop those ions from doing bad stuff. These guys are early. So now that locked door we saw before, and now we can go for it. That was a nice snipe. I did not expect that to actually hit. That works out sometimes. Now this enemy is not missable. It'll actually become a regular enemy later, but it is considered a boss. As of when you have to do. Less a boss though, and more like a mob fight more than anything though. Making sure to kill those enemies is important. If you miss too many of them, they do a lot of damage, and I'd rather save my health for this part right now. Which we have now just gotten to. The easiest way to get for this fast is to spam attack enemies when you can, and otherwise just spam missiles, then collect more of them so you can quickly get stuff done. A lot of it, how fast you can go, is kind of random. Ideally, you want to get a bunch of missile drops and then immediately collect missiles to refill your so you can get back enough stuff for the missiles later. And now we get the actual mini boss, I guess you can call him. It's mostly just a stronger version of Veil's. Well-armored burrowing insect, vulnerable only in the rear abdomen. Spic cranial plane can repel frontal attacks. This gives advantage to allowing it to make rally attacks. Only Saying when it detects violation events, then maneuvers itself to always face its well to keep it exist and dead. Saying the only way we can get rid of this guy is to wait for him to Nash. Sometimes they'll just keep rotating around a bit. Thankfully, it takes only 2 missiles generally to bring it down. And then we can get rid of it. The last time I defeated him, I actually got lucky enough to get a super large energy early. There's a third energy type that restores up to a whopping 100 energy at once. There we go. We got that done. Alright. We got that done now. Now, we could technically go back to that area and go into the side morph ball tunnel. Well, really the area we were just at before when we grabbed the missile launcher for the first time, but we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to focus on just going as fast as we can through this part. Like I said, I have my own predetermined route now, and I'll use that time to grab the stuff. With the general rule of thumb, I'll try to grab stuff as early as I possibly can grab them in my route, so I don't have to waste time coming back later. And by the way, as you can see, you can destroy the Waros Hive. There's usually no benefit to doing so, though, but you can do that for some reason. It has some uses here and there. Don't know why I did that. Because now we have so much movement, we can just skip the meals entirely. Or the scarabs, rather, entirely. Yep, I thought I was in range. Sometimes getting the logbook to work is kind of tricky. By the way, ignore the room that I skipped on the right. That room actually leads to, if we look at the map, a completely separate area. But one of those areas is actually a complete lava tunnel. Okay, good. We were able to get this before it died too fast. So, yeah, there we go. We got the Shriek Bat. That's kind of an easy enemy to miss because you will more often than not have time to grab it. Then we get this Reaper Rhine, which is just, it's kind of there. You don't actually take them out. Instead, you just keep making them go back in their hole. Oh, and that is pretty easy to get across here. Just gonna hop across and hit these Reaper Vines to make them get out of our way. And now we're gonna go over here. And just as a confirmation, we'll be able to get the Shriek Bat again. This is the easier way of getting them, while they still hang from the ceiling. Did not get 10 missile animation, unfortunately. There's a third missile pack as well, we're still going for. You have plenty of chances to scan those items, though, so it's not like it's going to be a big deal if you miss it. And now, time for my route to get a little bit weirdly messed up and a little bit of a skip setup. Anybody who's seen the C1 will probably know what you're familiar with. For the more efficient part of our route, it's actually faster to not get Charge Beam right now, because you can actually defeat the next boss using just missiles, and if you do so, you'll be able to skip having to go to his area. I mean, the Charge Beam area, rather, until much later, which allows you to pick up an extra missile pack when you inevitably collect the item. For now, though, we are still so we're going to go ahead and defeat the Shriek Bats while they're still there. Can't grab any items here, so we'll be just zipping and going in here. And note that is not a weird bug setup. If you just unmorph at specific points, you'll sometimes pop right up. Normally there's this one animation that you have to deal with. This is what it looks like. Takes a few seconds. You pop up immediately if you do the trick properly. Yeah, whatever. It's fine. We can get so much HP later anyway. I want to destroy this guy's kind of miss so we can actually pick up their drops this time around. Alright. The only thing to note is that there are no lore drops, but there are a couple of other items to pick up later. And along the way, we're also going to get this stone glowed. And a second part, we're also going to get access to a different area. And look at that. We already scanned 25% of items. However, we won't be going back to that until later. So we need a specific item to get that first. And instead, we're heading right into our second fight, Burn Drum. There's actually 2 more scan entries right here. They can be very easy to miss if you're not careful. We'll start with the boss itself, which is the Incinerator Drone, programmed for high temperature waste disposal. Schematics indicates a high risk of malfunction when internal power core is damaged. It has middle combat programming, but it can defend itself if necessary. The drone ends heat bursts compensate for its lack of battle powers. That was a miss on my missiles, but as you can see, you could just use missiles to defeat this guy instead. Then during the animation when the mobs are first coming out, we can get the barbed wire blast. This time I will go ahead and freeze this early, just to make sure I collected these logbooks. Get used to me doing this a lot because, like I said, I haven't played the game actually a whole lot, so it can be really hard, especially when you miss one thing and have to restart the whole playthrough. There's definitely a risk of that. So the safety bet is to just check to make sure you gotten the missable entries. That's the ones I'm focusing on. So we got the barbed wire blasts, and then if we move down here, yes, we got the incinerator drone. I'll just make sure of that. Actually, I could also you can also check that by just scanning the monster a second time. But anyways, we have it now, so now we just need to defeat the boss. In classic fashion, by the way, the early boss here is also kind of a joke, if not, actually, more often than not, even easier than the Hive Mecha was, because the Hive Mecha you had almost no health for. This one, you can just keep, all you really do is avoid its flames, surround it for a bit, keep attacking the bees the moment they pop up. You can even jump over its flame or go under it. And before we defeat it, I almost forgot about this, we can get another missable item. The lock system. The lock door itself, for some reason, is also scannable. That is probably one that a lot of people missed. They probably didn't know that you can scan the locked door to allow you to, yes. There is a much better place to get the locked door, though. In fact, the game says the locked door is missable. It's not. There is actually another way to get it. In one area of the game, there's a zone where you will briefly be locked in. If you, instead of trying to defeat the enemies to unlock the door, you turn backwards instead, you can actually just go into the locked door. Or rather, you can go back and scan the locked door early, which is really nice. And perfect. Okay, we did get a 10 missile animation. I don't believe this activates until you have at least a good amount of missile ammo. So now we just need the large energy to drop, Well, actually, we already have the large energy. We have the... Need the super big energy now. Okay, I'm not going to be going this way yet, because I do need to still get the charge beam. But, you know, we have the bombs. We are going to go ahead and collect a few more items. Gonna hide here, though, in the Stin Toad. Dim him up so we can continue on. And this starts our first Morph Ball puzzle. But first, we're going to scan this. I'm mostly focusing on research this time since I already checked the other ones. So we should have Morph Ball slot and Lock Door. Blast Shield and Lock Door are now collected. I do not believe we have anything that is missable now that is part of research. So research is pretty much going to be guaranteed to be done now. And see that lock door over there? That's where you would get the other lock door. If you didn't get it earlier, that's one of the easiest places to gather it. I just get it during the fight because it's actually faster that way, because you have to wait for that dude to reveal his weak point before he can even do anything. So it makes sense for the speedrun to just get it during the fight. And normally you're supposed to go really far around. I'm going to skip all that and just jump like this instead. Then when I get close to the end, we're going to bomb in. Thankfully, this timer is very generous. So I did that just to unlock the door for later. You're not missing anything on the right side. In fact, there is no scans to be had in this room at all besides the one I just collected no more than a few minutes ago. So we'll just go here, and also now we can just bomb our way for this and go underneath the wall here to skip the ions. Still don't have a lot of energy, so it's kind of important that we do that. And also we can open a lot of stuff using just our ball form. Since our ball form is the fastest form of movement, we definitely want to use that when we can. And now here's the tricky part, though. As you might have guessed, we have to end the episode, but in case you haven't noticed, Metroid has pretty limited saves. So I'm going to be using my old rule, where if I happen to save under a 40 to 70 minute timer, I will end the episode. By the way, I will do something interesting as well to make sure it's easy. I'm not going to check all the item stuff, but I am going to and briefly show you all the stuff I collected during my route. So I can show you guys what exactly we have and what exactly you guys might have. So if anybody does want to play along with me and actually like play for the game themselves and check their own logbook, just check to see if your logbook matches what I have at this point, and if it does, that means you probably got everything. Anyways, looking good so far though. We don't have any missables. There's a good majority of missables coming up in one of our later areas though, so it could be pretty hard. And the only thing down here should be just the Parasite Queen. Yeah, right here. Parasite Queen. We got that. Research, we have a good massive portion. Research, you fill out really fast, to be fair. This one is various. You might not get, you might get this big energy a bit earlier. I'll remember what it is once I actually get it. And you might get the large missile ammo also pretty early, but, I can get them all this time, but that's fine. We have many chances to get it. Once that's done, we don't have to scan the energy anymore. Then we have Morph Ball Slot, Gunship, Blast Shield, or Lock Door. Blast Shield and Lock Door are important, because Blast Shield can be missed. Lock Door can be easy to miss if you're not careful. And that's going to be the end of the episode. I'm going to actually... I'm going to use this inventory as my pause menu, and I'm going to see you guys in the next episode. Until then, bye. I hope you enjoy this playthrough, because it's going to be a really fun one. We're pretty fast, too, since I actually understand this game.